Leaders are readers. And that's why on Saturdays, Coffee with Alain likes to discuss various books that I have read. Give you a little insight. Maybe you'll find a book or two you like. Maybe it'll just inspire you to read something else. Doesn't matter to me as long as you're reading, enjoying, and learning. Welcome to Coffee with Alain. Have my book mug because it is Book Saturday. And like I was holding this up, Spotting Danger for Travelers, one of the books we're going to talk about. But I have a wide variety of tastes. So we're also going to be talking about Miss America by Howard Stern and the next Vince Flynn novel, Pursuit of Honor, that I recently finished. Those are the three books on the platform today. Before we get into the books, remind everybody that the newsletter goes out tomorrow. So sign up for that at enjoylifesafely.com. That's something you ought to be reading. Tips on staying safe, enjoying life, and being exceptional. Information just to make your life a little bit better. If you've already signed up, please share it with others. Help me grow that subscription base to get that information out to more and more people so more can enjoy life safely. All right, let's talk about some books. First book up today, Spotting Danger for Travelers. Now, I'll say I'm a little biased on this book. It is signed, and there is a little blurb by me here at the beginning. So if you look on this page, here's a little blurb. And I, wrote some nice things about the book because I read an advanced copy of it and I just reread it. It's an excellent book. I stand by that blurb I wrote and even more. Gary does a great job of talking about situational awareness, preparing for and traveling and staying safe while you do it. A lot of practical, good tips. It's not going to turn you into a spy or a ninja master. It's just going to allow you to pay attention, do some common safety habits like the stuff that I teach as well, being aware of what's going on around and staying safe while you're on a trip. I recommend all of Gary's books. That he has 4, all on different aspects of situational awareness. The first was his first book on situational awareness. Then he did one for teens and kids and now travelers. All of them really good. If you don't have kids, you might not need the ones in the middle, but I definitely say read the first one. That's a must. And if you travel at all, this has some great tips as well. So good one on the shelf, good one to read and apply and use some of the checklists and different things that he suggests to make your travels enjoyable and safe. Next book on the list, I am going to stop for one moment first. Dixon says hello and says, read any books about Jason? And are you talking about Jason Voorhees? Because yesterday was Friday the 13th. I have not read any of those, but I've seen some of the movies. I don't think I've seen all of the movies, though, but I have seen some of them. Best thing to do about staying safe from Jason would be don't go camping in the woods and tripping over things that aren't there, right? All right, the next book on the list, sort of different. This was on the shelf, and I'm cleaning out the bookshelves and donating books and trading them off to the used bookstore. And this was one that was on the shelf that I wanted to read and then trade off. Howard Stern's Miss America. And he wrote this way back in the 90s. So part of reading this is sort of interesting to see the time he wrote it and to remember back what was going on back then and the stuff he was talking about. It's R-rated. If you don't like Howard Stern's radio show going a little farther because he can, you wouldn't like this. A lot of profanity, some topless women pictures in different places and such. So I'll warn you right there. If you're offended easily, do not get this book. But if you're familiar with Howard Stern, you probably understand that. But it's interesting when he's talking about the beginning of chat rooms and sex and so forth through chats and stuff, and how far it's come, and if he wrote that today in the modern day of pornography on the internet and video chats and all this other stuff that he didn't have access to when he was writing this one, it would probably be a much different book. It was okay. I mean, you got to like Howard Stern. And I do like Howard Stern, even though he goes a little too far sometimes. And there were some things in here I didn't like. And I was like, that guy, or if it wasn't Howard, it was somebody else, is just a complete asshole. And I don't condone or agree with what he did for humor. And I didn't like some of it as far as what they were doing for humor. But I did like the nostalgia and stuff about the book. And so it was an interesting little read. I read it really fast because it wasn't something in depth that you got to like remember or learn from. It was just reading it quickly. And now I'm going to go trade it off or donate it to the library, let somebody else, enjoy it or take a look at it. And the third book today, I'm zipping through these quick so I can get on to my day and so you can get on to your day. Pursuit of Honor. Another Vince Flynn, picked up right where the last ones went off. And so again, if you're reading Vince Flynn, you want to read them in order. You don't have to, but they make much more sense if you read them in order. And I think this is the 12th book in order, if I remember correctly. Just a good book about, CIA and Washington, D.C. and what needs to be done to stop terrorists. And there was one scene in here I really liked. I forget what page it was on, or I would read it. But he was being, questioned by a panel of senators, and they said something about him torturing somebody, getting rough with the person to get information. And Mitch's reply is, "You say that like it's a bad thing." Yeah, I mean, it's like definitely has different opinions on how terrorists should be treated to get information to stop terrorists from killing American lives than some of those that were questioning his methods. And so just a good book. It's, if you like the first ones, you'll like this one. They're just sort of continuing along. This is getting near to the end of Vince Flynn's life. I think the next one, which I actually don't have, I'm going to have to go get it from the bookstore, used bookstore or Amazon or something. I don't have the next one. Might have been the last one that he wrote. I know it's getting really close to the last ones that Vince wrote before he passed away. And then Kyle started writing them. And now the new author is going to be writing them. And so they're continuing the Mitch Rapp stories with different authors. This is getting really close to the last one that Vince wrote. Really enjoyed it, just like I enjoyed all the earlier ones. So those are the books sharing today. Hopefully one of those books might make you say, hey, I want to check that one out, especially, Spotting Danger for Travelers. This is a good book if you're a traveler with some information to keep you safe. Some of this information will be on my travel safety course that I'm working on, which won't be out till sometime next year probably, but this is a good book until then, just to keep you safe while you're traveling. Howard Stern, you got to be a Howard Stern fan. You have to not be offended easily and want a little 90s nostalgia if you're interested in this one. It's not one I would recommend that, you have to go read this. I just happen to have it on the shelf with books that I, had forgotten about and thought, I'm going to read it before I get rid of it. And it was good for nostalgia. Very offensive for some people. Put that warning out there. You got to know Howard Stern, and he pulls no punches. Some of the stuff in there, I even went, oh, wow. Okay. And great thrillers. I really like Vince Flynn. Pursuit of Honor was just carrying on with the Mitch Rapp stories, and a fun, action-filled, political intrigue dealing with Washington, D.C. thriller. So enjoyed that one a lot. Those are the 3 books this week. Hope one of those might inspire you to check it out or inspire you to read something else. And sometimes people ask, how do I read so much? I make it a priority. I make time every day to do some reading. Some days I make a lot of time to do some reading, and I always have multiple books going on. I always have one novel, but then I have up to a dozen more different books on safety or fitness or biography or history or success or communications, all these things I'm interested in that I teach, and I'm just reading those books to stay up on it. And I don't read every book every day, but I'll pick one or two and read a chapter or two, or maybe one and just read a whole bunch, just depending on the day. But I prioritize reading. I love to read and work that in. Hope that you do too, and hope that some of these inspire you and share a book or two you'd like to read or motivate you to check something else out. Jace says good list, and he and Vicky said good morning. Appreciate you guys being here. And so thank you, everybody that watches live, watches replays, and thank you those that are helping get this out to more people by sharing and telling your friends about it. Get your friends to sign up for that newsletter. If you've already signed up for it, get your friends to sign up so more and more people can stay safe. It's all about enjoying life, staying safe, and being exceptional, and tips on how to do all of that. Good morning, Eric. Appreciate you being here. That's all I got for you this morning. Go out, make it a spectacular Saturday, and we'll see you tomorrow.